Hey, it's Joey Pantoliano to you, and you're watching the whole podcast.
Welcome to the Hall. I am Rob Sprans,
And I'm Lori Levine.
and I have been a fan of Joe Pantoliano for a very, very long time. He has been in so many of my favorite films. We were talking before he came on, and I'm not going to just gush about you the whole time, Joe, but we were
Well, at
talking.
least half the time.
Well, we were talking about you before you came on, and just so many excellent films. But the
Like
thing that
iconic films.
iconic films. And the thing that we noticed, what's kind of funny is you're such a nice person, yet you play some villainous guys, which is kind of cool. And like, that the differences between the two of you. But when I go through all of these films and all these accomplishments, I always wonder, like, do you feel that way about yourself? Like, do you look at that and go, wow, do you ever have a chance to look back on your career and go, wow, I really did accomplish a lot, or I really did succeed in what I wanted to do?
No, it's like we're in show business, so it's like, what have you done lately? I feel like a complete failure, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, I can't even watch. It's very rare I can go to new movies because I just get jealous.
Mm.
Um, seeing contemporaries, friends of mine that have gotten jobs that I didn't even know about, and and the other thing is, first of all, playing the antagonist is a lot of fun. I
Yeah.
mean, they're just the best parts in the whole world. I mean, starting with Shakespeare, working you so in these kind of melodramatic, film noir, whatever genre, even like Guido in Risky Business,
Hmm.
who was, it was a comedy. He was a pimp, but he had some of the best setups for the Joel character, the fish out of water character. So I always, I'm always attracted to those parts. Hey, look, if I was going to be given the protagonist leading man part, I'd still be asking if they wanted anchovies on the pizza. So, there wasn't much of a choice. It's these are the parts. People always say, "How do you choose your parts?" So they choose me. People have fans in a lot of times have they don't know how to compartmentalize character actors. So they read the press on their favorite movie stars, and they think that's just the same across the board. They
Right.
think that character actors make $20 million a picture too.
Right. Right.
And a lot of what I always I remember hearing from my agent, one of my many agents back in the day, and he said that James Mason used to say that you do one for the art, one for the money, and one for the location.
Right.
And and I made a career and raised a family on that business model. But
Mm.
now Hollywood has gotten to the point where they want you to do everything for nothing.
Right. Yeah, sure. And it's all blending now because of, TV and Netflix and streaming. It's not just about television anymore. It's now all the films now are streaming. And there's even, I've seen fights with actors in studios where, they get mad because they put it out on streaming and they're supposed to get only part of the ticket sales. And it must be hard to kind of adapt as technology adapts too, because obviously since the beginning, everybody's on the studio side pretty much in it to make money. You never hear a major executive say, "I just want to make art films all the time."
Yeah, now what is this pretty much? That's all they're into, and they have the algorithms, and it's all about eliminating risk. So they only make certain types of movies, and uh, and if you're a movie star, you have the luxury of spending millions of dollars to chase millions of dollars. But if
Yeah.
you're a guy like me, you're not going to spend $75,000 to chase 20.
Right. Yeah, it makes total sense. It makes total sense. And so you mentioned Guido, or Guido the Killer Pimp, as he's once referenced in the film. That your first feature film? I know you did some television. You did MASH. I
Well,
mean,
you did Eddie and the Cruisers.
that was
Yeah, I
after, I
did.
think. Right?
Yeah, I was doing
It's
Eddie
good.
and the Cruiser. I did Eddie and the Cruisers and the Idol Maker. I did Taylor Hackford's The Idol Maker. Before that, the first big thing, important job that I got when I went to California in 1978, I went there in 77, was the remake of From Here to Eternity. It
Okay.
was a mini series. Back in those days, it was like these mini series were, the big thing. It was
It was like
very
an
popular.
event. Yeah, like they had like the Thornbirds and all of these different. I remember
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
that came after. I was like, the first thing was like Roots, I think, really put it, and then they did Abraham Lincoln and the North and the South, and they did the novel From Here to Eternity, and I got to play the part of Maggio that actually Frank Sinatra played. So two kids from Hoboken got to play got to play a guy from Brooklyn, and
Nice.
but no, Risky Business was not the first feature. I actually had a small part in Godfather Part Two that was deleted, cut out of the movie,
Oh,
but
no
then
way.
it was brought back in when he did the Godfather saga, when he re-edited everything and made it a 6 hour anthology of the book. Um, I hope that answered your question.
No, no, it absolutely did. And when you're doing risky business too, I mean, that's Tom Cruise is not Tom Cruise. Then he's a kid. Like that's his first real vehicle that people got to know him. Do you see like can you tell that someone's going to be a budding star that early? Are you able to notice that, or is he just
No,
with no, right?
no, no. No, because it's a variety of things, and there are powers. The creative gods and the muses have something to do with that, but it's got to be a success. I mean, number one is the fan base determines who the star is, not the
Hmm.
studio. The studio just keeps throwing money at the actor later on. You only get catch lightning in the bottle once.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
and 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 Tom, to his credit, to be able to have a sustainable career for what is it, 40 years now?
Yep. Yep.
That's that takes a lot of ambition and smarts and access to material. I was telling my daughter the other day, I said, in order to be a producer, you have to have access to material, to to talent, and to money. That's what a producer does. A producer is able to, if he's got the project and he's been able to get that project that 20 other studios want. Now,
Yeah.
now you own it. Now you own the rights to that project. Now, depending on who you get to star in it, will depend on how much money they're going to make the movie for.
Yeah, it makes sense. And then, so do you find things start to change for you a little bit? Is risky business the one where when you're done, do you people start recognizing you more, or you start getting offered more roles, or did it happen a little sooner than that? Because I'm gonna get to Midnight Run in a second, which is one of my favorite films ever. But is that the one that you felt was the biggest catalyst to get you a lot more roles and get you a little more known?
I, that was really always my job, is to get better parts and better pictures. By creating, being lucky enough to understand, okay, that movie opened big, so that'll get me into the next door, and that'll get me into the next door, and nothing succeeds like success. Um, um, so, so, and also I had maintained relationships from my days in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I did as a young aspiring actor, besides going to acting class, was you auditioned for a lot of NYU films back in those days. They were always looking for actors to be in student films. And so I actually got to know some of the young student directors that wound up being people like Marty Brest, who directed Midnight Run.
Oh, wow.
And Marty, it's a funny story. Marty calls me up and he says, "Hey, look, I'm doing this movie with De Niro. There's a couple of parts. Look at the two gangsters, idiot number one, idiot number two. You can take either of those parts." And I read it and I said, "Hey, Marty, I don't want to play that. I don't want to play those guys. I did Risky Business. I want to play, somebody else." He says, "Well, what other parts are there?" I said, "I want to play the accountant." He said, "Get out of here. You're not going to play the accountant.
Right.
I need a movie star for that part." I said, "Well, then the bail bondsman." He goes, No, the bail bondsman. I got this whole idea. I want to get a really fat guy. If you want the bail bondsman part, you got to win the part. You got to come in here and audition for it. The other two, I'll give you one of them." Right. So I auditioned for it. Mm-hmm. And I remember going into the room and thinking like, okay, so obviously on the page, this is a character that is playing. He's a con artist, he's a huckster and a grifter, and he's always saying, "What? Don't you trust me? Don't you trust me?" And I'm thinking like, well, how's everybody else going to play this part? What can I do? How am I going to be different? And the other thing is when you go in a room, and I haven't auditioned for a long time. It's like that's a whole other medium. It's like being an actor is one thing, but being able to go in and audition is like it's a whole another skill set. So back in those days, I auditioned for everything, and so I decided that I was going to charm this character. And De Niro, I read with De Niro. So there was a moment, and he actually, it was difficult because he's also casting, so he's reading with you, but he's also watching you. He wants to see what you're doing, and he's also reading off the page. So the scene, if you're familiar with it, there's a scene where he says, "Where's my money? Give me my money, Jack. I want my money."
Yep.
And my line, my character says something like, "What's the matter? You don't trust me?
Right.
You'll get your money, right?" So I decided I was going to make love to him. So I grabbed him. I said, "What's the matter? You don't trust me?" And when he put his hand out for the money, I took his hand and I shook his hand, and then I cupped his hand. I put it up against my heart, and I saw De Niro's eyes go like this, like, "Whoa, who's this guy?" And I knew I had the part. I knew I got the job. That's awesome. That's the first and last time that ever happened.
Wow. Yeah. And, especially with auditions, it's such a good point. Like, as if there's not enough pressure on you already, as if it's not the furthest thing from actually being on a set because you're sitting in a room. And now you have to do it for Robert De Niro on top of that. That all of those things piled on. I mean, you just have to go for it, I guess. But it's, it's just to grab them.
The problem with auditioning, the closer you get to the job, the harder it is to replicate what you're bringing to the table. And that's the whole point is that, it's just, that's all about, when you go into a room, it's not about anybody else. It's not about Robert De Niro or pick your movie star. It's about you. It's your opportunity to get a job. And in that moment, you have the job. It's your duty to keep it. And you got to hope that the chemistry is right, and you got to hope that that the studio is going to sign off on you. There's so many different things, but you just want to be able to go into the room and leave it in the room. The worst feeling in the world is when you go in a room and you didn't do it. You leave that room knowing that you could have done better. That sucks.
Yeah. Did you ever think you bombed one, but they picked you?
Oh, I bombed thousands of them. I bombed thousands of them, and then I did shit with can I say shit?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I've been in relationships with producers that were stage managers, 20 years later saying, "Boy, when you auditioned for that play, you stunk." That's the beauty of ambition. I believe that ambition is rewarded much more than talent in my industry.
It's funny that you mentioned thinking maybe playing the accountant, or because like I can't picture anyone else as the bail bondsman, but you, just like I can't picture you right
in any of his roles, though. I can't picture somebody
I know
else.
it's so true.
No, he was brilliant. By the way, to put a punctuation on the final, when the agent called, he said, "Congratulations." He said, "I got good news and I got bad news." And he said, "The good news is you got the part. The bad news is the project just went into turnaround because Paramount wanted Marty, the producers, and De Niro to hire somebody else. They didn't want Gordon. They wanted a female. They wanted to turn it into a female."
Wow.
And they said, "We won't make the movie." And it went over to Universal in 2 days.
Wow, that quick.
Yeah, that quick. But that there you go. That's what I mean when I talk about the gods. That to have somebody that powerful willing to walk away from all of that money and opportunity because they knew that Grodin was the right thing to do for them, for their movie.
Yeah, for sure. And that also kind of shows a lot about how, there's no one specific here I'm talking about, but there are a lot of times I hear stories about how the studios can mess things up just because they want to give their input on so many different things, and instead of just letting the creative process go. That I can't picture that movie without Grodin, or not that a female lead wouldn't do something different to it, but it's just it is what it is.
I think it was a financial thing. I think they were looking at the numbers. They wanted to have 2 movie stars instead of 1.5.
Right.
And they were wrong. I mean, as it turns out, but in today's world, I mean, I remember there was a movie that Paul Newman was doing, and he left the project, and then they said, "Well, we got Gene Hackman," and they said, "Oh, well, okay, so with Paul Newman it's an $80 million movie, and with Gene Hackman it's a $40 million movie." That's how they do it. I wish I had them as my accountants.
Well, it all worked out the right way, because to this day, I still a friend of mine and I, whenever something good happens, we say, "You got the Duke, you got the Duke." Yeah. So it worked out for the best.
That's truly a classic. I think I've been, well, I think if you not Google me, what do you call it, IMDb, I think I got 4 projects that in the Library of Congress that I did.
Really?
I don't know which ones they are, but I read that somewhere.
That's very cool. I'll look that up.
I know, I'm looking through the list.
I've been in 165 movies.
That's insane.
And 4 of them.
I know.
We're looking at that.
I'm gonna start a letter writing campaign. So another movie I want to jump to is one that I don't hear talked about as much, but I really loved, and it's also a movie that I think everyone I know, male or female, has masturbated to at one point or another, and that's Bound, which is one of the hottest movies that is not a Cinemax level movie. And at the same time, here you are again as Caesar, as playing another badass. What was it like working with those guys?
Caesar was the victim.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, at the end,
he was manipulated. He was the patsy by the girls. He wasn't the femme fatale. He was the usually it's a girl and 2 guys, and one of the guys dies, right?
Right.
And in this case, it was the two girls set Caesar up for the fall. But that's a great movie. I actually just told my middle kid. Most of my kids, they don't get to see me in a lot of stuff. and they're adults now.
Yeah.
But I said, now that you could, because there's this whole Criterion. I'm addicted to the Criterion
Yeah.
channel.
Excellent. Mm-hmm.
And there's a whole series of film noir, the Fox, the 20th Century Fox film noirs, and I said, you got to see Bound. It's time to see Bound because that's a good movie.
Yeah,
it still really comes up on, like, if you look up sexiest movies, it's always on there, the list.
Yep. Mm-hmm. As it should be. And there's just Jennifer Tilly just plays that, both of them though, but there's something about the way Jennifer Tilly plays that character that it seems like she's not she's playing an airhead kind of character. She turns out to be completely opposite of that. It's just the magic of her. She's done it in so many movies, and I just thought of Bullets Over Broadway.
She's an amazing. She's brilliant. People, because she's so beautiful and sexy. I mean, like, just oozing out of her sex appeal. And I'm thematically in that movie. Everybody in the movie wants to bang her.
Yeah.
Right. Every character in the movie wants to bang Violet.
Yeah.
It's no accident that her name is Violet.
Right.
But I learned a lot from working with her. She's really brilliant. She's really, incredibly smart. I mean, like, book smart, like, 200 IQ. But people don't realize that because of this image that she created for the movies.
Yeah, and she's been excellent, and that is such a great film. I'm glad that you see it that way too, because it's one of my favorites that you've done. And I know we don't have tons of time, but there are others I definitely want to touch on.
As long as we're talking about me, we can keep going.
All right, cool. Well, we're going to talk about you all. I promise you that. Another one too, a movie that I saw in the theater, had no idea what to expect, and blew my mind, and which is Memento. With Christopher Nolan directed, you and Guy Pearce. That
Carrie Ann Moss.
Yeah, Carrie Ann Moss. That's right.
She got me the job, by the way.
She did. So, like, when you read that, so how did she get you the job? Were you friends and she messaged
The
you?
Matrix? I don't know. I can't remember the order.
No.
Yeah, we'd done the Matrix. It hadn't even been released yet, and when we got home, my Nancy had just had our third kid, our Isabella, who's now 23. So it's a long time ago. But Carrie Ann said, "Hey, I just got offered this movie in Canada, and with John Hurt. You want to, I told the director about you. You want to do it?" And so I did that. And then she said, "Hey, I just read this script. First-time director. It's really interesting. You should meet him." And I, that was Chris Nolan. As Chris Nolan likes to say, Joey's still trying to work out the plot line to the Matrix. So understanding Memento was way over my head.
I was actually going to ask you that. Like, when you read the script, like when you put it down, were you like, I love this? Because when it was done, I was like, I love this, but I need to see it again to kind of absorb exactly what happened. I could imagine in the written word, like, that was probably even more confusing.
Well, you're reading it all the time when I'm working on something like that. And also, Chris grew up, in England. He's got a British accent. His brother Jonah has got a Chicago accent. But we worked on that. That was the process of working on that film was really fun. It was exciting. We didn't have a lot of time. So we rehearsed, we loosely blocked the first week of work. And then after the first week of work, they would come to my house on Saturday and Sunday for a couple of hours. And Guy and Emma, Chris's wife, producer, and Chris, the four of us would work out all of the work for the upcoming week. And I I gave them suggestions because some of the language was, my character's language was uh, a little British, and I said, I think Yiddish, speak British, but no, we got to make them more like a LA cop, and
Right.
and so we did that, and Emma typed it, and then it was on the page, and so when you got to work, you knew you had a pretty good idea of what was how it was going to be blocked, and it was a lot of fun. I like working that way.
Yeah, it was one of the most intriguing movies that I've seen. Like when I left, I was like, I have to see that again because I don't know really what I saw, but I know I loved it. And there was just so many layers to it that you when you watch it a second time, you intentionally try to think of it backwards. It's almost like the second viewing of that movie is better than the first.
But we shot it. We didn't shoot any of it in continuity, so it never felt backward. It was
Okay.
just because when you shoot a scene, it's like it's beginning, middle, and end. Each scene has a beginning. It's like what just happened, what's gonna happen. So that never was even a consideration. I just wanted to know when I was telling Leonard the truth and when I was bullshitting him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because again, and with Leonard, everybody wanted something from him. They knew he had the money. They wanted the money.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody was taking advantage of his what they now call traumatic brain injury. Back when we made that movie, we didn't know what that was.
Right. And now, you mentioned coming from the Matrix. You mentioned the Matrix, of course. Gotta talk about that one. I mean, just another intricately woven. There's a new one coming out as well. So that experience, like with sci-fi, especially when there's a lot of CGI and things like that. Do you see, like, do they show you the storyboards and kind of try to explain to you what it's really going to look like versus what it looks like in reality?
The Wachowskis did, certainly. It was incredibly detailed, to the tune of, I don't know, I actually have a storyboard from those days, and
Nice.
and this was, oh yeah, let me show you.
Yeah.
This is what they this was the cast, the crew present.
Mm-hmm.
See what that says?
It's a little hard to see
It's
what it says. I see.
It's the Nebuchadnezzar. That's the plaque
Oh,
on
wow.
that's the Matrix. It
Oh,
says
so cool.
1999, the Matrix, Nebuchadnezzar, Mark for number 41.
Wow, that's so cool.
And again, it was I just remember making a decision and working out the details with the Wachowskis,
Mm-hmm.
that I don't know if I told them this, but this is what I was playing. I don't like to tell directors what I'm thinking because they gives them an opportunity to talk me out of it.
Right.
If you show them something and they like it, then they don't say anything. If they don't say anything, that means they like it.
Gotcha.
So I decided, in observing the situation, the scenes, the movie, what's said, what his character, what my guy said, what other people said, is that I was the most human because I had the most doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was, they believed in the cause, and Cypher wasn't a potted plant. He was unplugged too. He had the choice of taking the blue pill and the red pill,
Mm-hmm.
and he took the red pill, like Neo, and he regretted it. And it's like, oh my God, what did I do?
Yeah.
And and the woman that he loved was in love with somebody else. It was a lose-lose situation for him. And
Mm-hmm.
when people say, "Oh, you were the traitor," they they despised Cypher for his choices. And I said, who wouldn't? I get in arguments with people. Who wouldn't take that deal?
Yeah.
If you had an opportunity to betray your best friends, people you love, and to be able to have no memory of it, and and then get plugged back into the Matrix, and be somebody important. Yeah, especially in these days where celebrity is more valuable than gold.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't do that? I mean, who wouldn't take that? The self-realization that people do not do. People are they want to be right all the time.
Yeah, it's also easy to say, "Oh, I would do the right thing," until you're when people are in a situation. It's a lot different than it's easy to say it. Lori would sell me out in a second to be for celebrity. I know it. She would. Oh, sorry, you muted Lori. What'd you say?
A nanosecond, probably.
So there you go. But so the new one's coming out too now. So are we seeing any Joey Pants in there or what?
No. I mean, I'm so excited about seeing it. Also, I can't wait to see what they do with it. So.
Yeah, and you probably have, anytime you're in these, you probably have your own ownership on them too. Like you want to make sure they do right by the story and everything as well, because it is part of, your legacy when it's all said and done too.
No, that's horseshit.
He's like, I just want to watch a good movie.
That makes sense. All right, there you go. Yeah, sometimes
if it's great, if it's good, if it's great, it's important. I mean, what she did with the first one, I mean, the Matrix, the trilogy, but especially the Matrix, the first one was mind blowing because no one ever saw that before. Yeah. So they challenged the norms. Those actors had to train with the kung fu unit for 6 months. So they were doing everything, which enabled them to film it in a way without these, nanosecond cuts like they do in Hollywood movies. Mm-hmm. And so people were taken aback by this. It was probably what people felt like when they saw Jolson sing in the Jazz Singer, the first talkie movie on screen. And it was like, okay, well, now what do you do? Because they're going to be jaded by the time the second one comes out. All of these Hollywood movies, studios are going to try to replicate that. Mm-hmm. The bullet time stuff that they wanted that. They could only describe it. Right. They went to, I think it was John Gator who did the special effects, and they explained what they wanted to see. They didn't know how to build it technically. He came up with this. He was able to give them what was in their heads. So I've heard a lot of really smart people say that The Matrix is not a movie; it's a documentary about society. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to see the opportunity that Lana has now to comment on our world. Mm-hmm. As globally, we are so divided. Yep. and shattered. It feels like it's 1929 all over again. It feels like we're in this dystopian reality. The fascism is back, and yep. It's crazy. And so,
you remember Elon Musk tweeted, what did he tweet? Like, take the red pill.
Yeah.
When did he do that?
During the election.
Oh no.
Yeah, I agree with you, Joe. It's scary, and I think that all of these people. It's not like that the mindset ever went away. I just think now they become emboldened, and we don't need to go down the political road, but they've become emboldened because people in leadership were acting that way as well, and it gave them the hubris to come out of the woodwork, and that's what.
Yeah,
that's what
but I think because of algorithms, and I'm not picking sides. It's like, that's why I love this movie, Don't Look Up, because he's challenged this in a humorous way. Mm-hmm. Because you can manipulate. Listen, the adage has always been there's a sucker born every minute, and so you can grift anybody, and it's like there's another movie that I saw that's really good, Nightmare Alley, about grifters. And people want to be, they want to be right. So if
Right.
you can find out what they believe in and then validate that, then they go, see,
Yeah.
yay,
Yep.
see. But I think what's happening with power, I think throughout history, even throughout history, the fathers of industry have always controlled the keys to the castle, and so democracy, look, they could still make it look like we were a democratic society, right? But now with this whole the idea that tribalization and these white Anglo Protestants are they just in a fair election, fair and square, it just can't work for them anymore.
Right.
You can't do it.
Yeah.
So okay, so just all due respect, it's like, well, how do we stay in power? Well, the only way you could stay in power is to cheat and then say the other guy cheated. It's like what they did to the American Indians. That's what they're doing to us now. They're saying you do something and then you say, oh, it wasn't me, it was the Indians.
Right.
It's like oh, if they found oil on underneath this house, they would say, well, that house is no good. Joey Pants is no good. And it doesn't even belong to him. Technically, that's not his house. Technically, the bank, he's got a mortgage on that house. That's our house.
Yeah, of course.
And that's what you got to do in order to stay in power. So there's 400 billionaire Americans. Elon Musk is one of them. And and all of these guys, Bezos, where they're flying, they're going out 55,000 feet up in the air, breaking the seal. They're not in and out of space. They're not going to space. They're not astronauts. Who are they shitting? But if they say it enough times, I was on the Concorde once. That's 50,000. Okay,
So you were in space.
I was in space. I'm a fucking astronaut too.
So great. It's so true though. So the Concorde, man, that was an amazing plane. I never got to fly on one. That was
cool. And I was weightless too. When I went to Iraq in 2000, I think it was 2011 maybe. I'm not sure of the dates, but we went to Iraq to show my documentary, No Kidding Me Too, on the army bases because they were having so much problems with suicide, self-inflicted suicide, and so in order to land in Iraq, this plane had to make a corkscrew dive so it wouldn't get hit by mortar, and so for 15 seconds you lose weight and so you start floating. It was really fun.
No way, that's so cool.
Yeah,
I mean, not the mortar part, but the weightlessness part is cool.
Yeah, no, nobody shot at us.
All right, well, good. But I guess there's no better way to transition over to, you mentioned your documentary, and something that you've been very, very outspoken and honest about is your struggles with mental health. You have a podcast now called No Kidding Me Too with your daughter Daniela, which is very cool as well. You guys get to do that together. But you've talked about how you've struggled, and even through your career where nobody seems to notice. And what I was thinking about was, everybody thinks that, oh, well, he's in movies. Like, what has he got to worry about? And, but, everybody seems to get bundled into this one, either it's addiction or it's this or it's that. And that root cause of mental health is just always there, and sometimes not the thing that's getting treated. Like, what got you to the point where, because when you're in the public eye, it is a risk to come out and even say it to anyone, So I'm sure a lot of people have it and they don't say a word. So what made you want to open up and share that?
Well, with my story, I was like that guy. I was thinking that if I could become successful in the motion picture industry, that I wouldn't feel this way. I wouldn't have anything to worry about. I was so my drug of choice to treat that my psychic pain. I didn't even know I had it. Was success. So I used success like I would use masturbation or drugs or alcohol. They say, masturbation, meditation, medication.
Right.
It's like I was treating a discomfort, what we kind of coined the phrase a dis-ease. I have a mental dis-ease, not a mental illness, because mental illness sounds permanent. I never liked the sound of it.
Right.
And so when I eventually I fell off a roof and I hurt my back and I discovered pain pills, OxyContin, Vicodin, and those were like the answer. That was the feeling I'd been searching for my entire life, more than anything, and those like kind of put a bounce in my step, because I was actually treating my disease with jogging. I would feel terrible. I get up, I was just funky. I'd throw on my sneakers and I'd run for 3-4 miles and I felt better. I never needed to run more, like with drinking or drugs or women. It was never like, well, if I could do this, and then I needed 2 beers, then I needed 3 beers, then I needed 4 beers. But with the jogging, it was just like, run for 30 minutes and I felt better. But then when I hurt myself, I couldn't run and it started building up. And it's a long story, but the bottom line was I got help, and I had a psychiatrist that told me that I had clinical depression, and he explained what that was. And because I was confounded by the idea that everything that I ever wanted and worked for, that I had received it, and my life was good, and why did I want to kill myself? It was like,
Yeah. So it really got to that point where you felt like you wanted to kill yourself?
yeah, well,
Or you
not
have
that
those thoughts.
I didn't have the gun in my mouth, but it was like, what the hell is going on? Because I couldn't feel anything. I couldn't feel pleasure. I couldn't get pleasure out of anything. Normal things that I used to get a kick out of. That's the classic definition of depression. And and there are many diagnoses, and in my case there was a lot of childhood trauma that was never dealt with or resolved, and so when I was diagnosed, I felt like I hit the lottery, because up until that point I thought it was a weakness. I thought it was a character defect. I thought it was something wrong with me. I didn't know anybody felt like that. I thought I was the only one in the world.
Hence the no kidding
so,
me too.
Yeah, and that, I was making a movie called Canvas. This all happened. I was actually, I acted in it. I was a producer on it with Joe Greco, who wrote and directed it. And as a producer, he invited me out to Los Angeles to sit in on the editing. And when I would go to the airport, people would say hello. What are you up to? What are you working on? I tell them about this movie, and they would say, "No kidding, me too. My brother's bipolar. No kidding, me too. My mother's schizophrenic." And it was just like
Everybody's
they
dealing with this.
Yeah, and they were surprised at that time. They were surprised. They said, "No kidding, he's talking about this." Well, me too. And that's when I started thinking about that this conversation needed to be heard. And and I get a kick out of it, because people feel better when they feel less alone. And that's the terrible thing about depression, is it wants you to isolate. It wants you to be alone.
Yeah. And people who don't understand it say things like, "Oh, cheer up, you've got this, you've got that," and it doesn't work that way. And you have, so there's a website, nkm2.org, where you can go and donate. And our show is going to donate $100 to the cause. Both as a thank you for everything that, the entertainment you've given us, but also because it's a great thing that you're doing to get the word out to everyone and to just kind of almost normalize it. I guess that's the best way to put it. And you know what, your daughter Daniela also, I listened to the live one you did at Gotham. Which is very cool. Yeah, it was really, really good. Jim Norton, I've known for quite some time. We did podcasting together a while back, and he's always been honest about it too, and straightforward, and he does it in humorous ways, but he still finds a way to get the point across. So when I heard your daughter say that she also has struggled with it. It made me feel for you in a little bit, because I'm sure, deep down you're like, I hope she doesn't have this. I hope I didn't pass this on. But I mean, there's nothing you can do about that. But
no, I'm sure I did. I'm sure, and there's several of us in our family. It's a family disease, and Nancy gives the other ones the cancer cells. So I'd rather make my kids nuts than give them cancer.
Right, that's a good point. Well, I want everyone, first of all, go to nkm2.org. Check out the podcast, No Kidding Me Too, because while it's serious subjects, you still get Joe's personality that you've gotten just now. There's also a movie on Hallmark Channel coming out called Santa's Stakeout, which Joe is also going to be in. And, we're going to follow you on, I know you have an Instagram here. Let me show that as well.
Oh, yeah. Follow me on Instagram.
Yeah. Real Joey Pants. You can follow him on Instagram too. But I want everyone to do that.
And also the new movie from the Vine, which actually
yes.
Where Joe's the big star.
Yeah.
I was reading an article where you said my agent sent me this, and I was like, "Am I the lead?"
Yeah. Yeah, he sent me. He said, "Look at the role of Marco," and I'm like 15 pages in, and I call him up. I said, "Look, you gave me the wrong name. This guy's the lead." He goes, "No, that's what
I love this.
They want you for that. That's what they want. They want." I said, "Jesus Christ." I guess Stanley Tucci and Paul Giamatti are not too busy.
Yeah, but see, even now, after all, you just mentioned you're in 160 movies, but you're still surprised that you're a lead. I don't get it. I mean, but that's something I'll probably never get because I'll never be in that position. But that's a good point too. Make sure you check out that movie as well.
But if you like wine, if you love wine and you love, it's funny. It's sweet and funny. And
Joe does not play. I mean, I've only seen the trailer, but it looks like you're not playing an asshole.
Lori.
You look like a nice guy.
Watch the fucking movie, will you?
Yes, there you go. Everyone watch the fucking movie.
I will tonight.
Atta girl.
Joe, it's an absolute honor, and thank you so much. For all the great entertainment. You're welcome back anytime you want to promote something. Just say the word.
We didn't even get into the Goonies.
I know. We can have 9 more hours with you, but next time.
Thank you, kids. Have a happy holidays, and I'll talk to you soon.
You too, Joe.
Thanks,
take care.
Joe.
Thank you for watching The Whole. I am Rob Sprans.
And I'm Lori Levine.
Later, motherfuckers.